Hello. It is a quiet honor to welcome you to Black History for Sleep. Before our story begins, find a place where you can rest, a place where the world outside can fade into a gentle hum. As you settle in, feel free to leave a comment below with your time and location, joining a silent community of listeners from across the globe. If you find solace in these journeys, please consider subscribing for more soothing Black History bedtime stories. It helps our small channel reach others who might need a quiet space like this. A gentle warning: you probably won't make it through this journey awake. And that's perfectly fine. This space is designed for rest. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. The lamps are lit, the breeze is warm, and the story begins. The air in Virginia tonight is a thick velvet blanket, heavy with the scent of damp earth and the sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine. You can feel the day's heat rising from the ground, a phantom warmth that clings to your skin, to the thin homespun cotton of your dress. Above, the sky is not yet black, but a deep, bruised purple, and the first stars are beginning to prick through the haze, shy and distant. You are walking away from the noise. Behind you, the soft murmur of your people settles over the quarters. A low laugh here, a tired sigh there, the gentle scrape of a wooden spoon against a bowl. These are the sounds of survival, the punctuation marks at the end of another long, sun-scorched day in the tobacco fields. You are meant to be among them, folding into the dark of your small cabin, preparing for a sleep that is never quite long enough. You are meant to be asleep, or at least pretending to be, a skill you have nearly perfected over the years. But tonight, your feet carry you in the other direction. Barefoot, you move with a practiced silence, your soles finding the cooler, mossy patches of earth along the path. The ground knows you. It has held your footprints since you were a child, learning the rhythm of your joys and your sorrows. The path leads you past the great house, a hulking shadow against the twilight, its windows filled with the mellow golden light of beeswax candles. You can hear the faint tinkle of a spinet, a melody that sounds like caged birds, formal and fragile. It is another world in there, a world of polished wood and silver, a world that owns the ground you walk on, that owns the very skin you are in. You slip past the smokehouse, the salty, hickory-smoked scent of curing hams filling your senses for a moment, a reminder of a wealth you contribute to, but will never share. A little further on, you pass a gnarled catalpa tree, its branches hung with empty blue and green bottles. They glint in the low light, a silent, colorful congregation. The elders say these bottle trees, a memory of traditions from the Congo, are meant to trap restless spirits in the night, to keep harm from wandering where it shouldn't. You offer the tree a quiet nod. You could use a little protection tonight. Your heart isn't racing. It is beating a slow, deep rhythm against your ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation that feels both like fear and something else, something you dare not name. Love is a word too simple, too clean for what this is. This is a vine, tangled and tenacious, that has grown in the dark, in the cracks of a foundation built to keep you apart. The law of this colony, written in a fine, confident script by men in powdered wigs, declares that any union between a person of your color and a person of his is a profound shame, an unnatural act. It is a law designed to keep bloodlines pure, to keep property lines clear, to keep the world exactly as it is. Historians will one day debate the precise purpose of these laws, whether they were driven more by economic anxiety or by a deep-seated fear of human connection that defied their neat, cruel categories. But you don't need to be a historian. You know what the law feels like. It feels like the stone in the pit of your stomach right now. You reach the edge of the woods, where the cultivated fields give way to the wild tangle of the Virginia forest. The air is cooler here, the sounds deeper. The crickets have started their nightly chorus of complaints and pronouncements, a sermon that will last till dawn. This is your destination, a small clearing, hidden by a thicket of blackberry bushes and sheltered by the broad, low-hanging limbs of an ancient oak. In the center of the clearing is a fallen log, worn smooth by rain and time. You sit, the rough bark a familiar texture against your legs, and you wait. You don't have to wait long. A sound, different from the night's usual conversation, the crisp snap of a twig, the soft crush of a leather boot on dry leaves. You don't turn. You simply watch the space where you know he will appear. He emerges from the shadows, and for a moment, he is just a silhouette. Tall, slender, a shape that does not belong here in the deep woods at this hour. He moves with a quietness that is not learned from a life of hiding, but from a life of books and quiet rooms. He is the planter's youngest son, the one who spends more time with ledgers and poetry than with whips and horses. He stops a few feet away, his face pale in the gloom. He carries nothing, but your eyes search his hands anyway, a habit you can't break. His hands are empty. They are not holding a lantern or a weapon or a chain. They are simply hanging at his sides, looking uncertain. "I thought you might not come," he says, his voice a low murmur that barely disturbs the air. It is a voice you know from the great house, a voice that has politely requested more water, or asked a question about a sick horse. But here, in the dark, it sounds different. Stripped of its authority, it is just the voice of a man. You look at him, at his fine linen shirt, so impossibly white against the darkness. You think of the 100 ways this could end, the 100 paths that lead to pain, and yet you are here. He is here. And for this brief, stolen moment, the world and its brutal laws are just a distant hum beyond the protective circle of this ancient oak. The fireflies, at least, seem to have no opinion on the matter, blinking their silent, intermittent light around you both, as if they are the only candles you need. You let the silence hang between you, a fragile thread in the thick, humming air. His question, "I thought you might not come," is a stone dropped into a deep well, and you are listening for the splash. You could say many things. That you shouldn't have come. That every step you took to get here was a rebellion against sense. Instead, you give him a small piece of the truth. The work ended late, you say, and your voice is even quieter than his, a sound that feels like it belongs to the moss and the shadows. The mistress had a headache and wanted the linens re-scented with lavender. He nods, accepting this. He knows the language of your life is spoken in tasks, in the whims and ailments of his family. He takes a step closer, and the faint, clean scent of starch and soap from his clothes reaches you. It is the scent of the great house, of a life of ease, but on him, it is somehow less imposing. He reaches into the inner pocket of his coat, and for a heartbeat, your body tenses. It is an instinct you cannot unlearn, a deep cellular memory of what a white man reaching into his coat in the dark can mean. But he pulls out something small and rectangular, a book. It is bound in dark leather, worn soft at the corners. "I brought this for you," he says, holding it out. It is poetry, from a man named John Donne. You take it. The leather is smooth and cool against your palm, which is rough and calloused from the hoe, the laundry paddle, the needle. You run your thumb over the cover. A book. It is such a simple object in his world, and such a monumentally dangerous one in yours. You wonder if he imagines you have a vast amount of free time and a well-lit reading nook to enjoy it in. Still, a warmth spreads through your chest, a warmth that has nothing to do with the humid Virginia air. He is trying to see you, not just as a pair of hands, but as a mind. "Thank you," you whisper. You can read. It is another one of your secrets, taught to you in hushed lessons by an old man named Titus who worked in the stables using a stolen primer and the pages of an almanac before he was sold south. A skill that feels like a lit candle you are trying to shield from a hurricane. As you hold the book, a new sound cuts through the night. It is distant, but sharp. The baying of hounds. You both freeze. Every muscle in your body goes rigid. The crickets seem to fall silent, as if they too are holding their breath. The sound comes again, closer this time, accompanied by the faint, rhythmic pounding of horses' hooves. The patrol, men on horseback, often poor whites who were paid a small fee to police the roads and woods after dark, ensuring no one of your color was traveling without a pass. Their primary qualification for the job seems to be a profound dislike of seeing anyone, particularly anyone of your color, looking peaceful. His eyes, wide with a fear that is new to him, meet yours. In your eyes, the fear is ancient. You know exactly what they will do if they find you here, and you know what they will do to you if they find you here with him. The thought is a cold fist clenching in your gut. This is the reality that his poetry books cannot touch. Historians will one day puzzle over the complex social tapestry of the antebellum South, but they will all agree on the brutal function of the patrol: to enforce the curfew, to maintain terror, and to turn the entire landscape into a cage after sundown. You instinctively sink lower on the log, pulling the book close to your body as if to hide it, to hide yourself. He stands motionless, a pale statue in the moonlight, looking in the direction of the sound. He is learning, in this moment, a fraction of the fear that is your daily bread. You carry a small pouch tied to your waist, filled with dried herbs, a bit of yarrow for courage, a sprig of rosemary for memory. A little piece of the old knowledge. You grip it now, its crinkly texture a small tangible comfort. The sounds drift, moving parallel to the woods, not into them. The riders are sticking to the main path. The barking grows fainter, the hoofbeats receding until they are once again swallowed by the chirping of the crickets, who have decided it is safe to resume their nightly arguments. The silence they leave behind is heavier than before. The danger has passed, but its ghost remains, standing between you. He lets out a breath he didn't seem to know he was holding. "I'm sorry," he whispers, though what he is apologizing for isn't clear. For the patrol? For the world that requires them? For bringing you into this danger? "It is the way of things," you say, the words tasting like ash. You stand up, feeling the need to move, to shake off the cold dread. You tuck the small book into a hidden pocket sewn into the inside of your skirt, a secret place for secret things. He reaches out then, not with the confidence of a station, but with a hesitation that makes the gesture feel real. His fingers find your hand, and he gently uncurls your fist from the fabric of your dress. His hand is warm, his skin smooth against yours. It is a simple human touch, an impossible touch, a spark in the darkness, both a comfort and a terrifying illumination of the chasm that separates you. The feeling of his hand on yours is a shock, not of surprise, but of texture. The smoothness of his palm, which has never known the rough grip of an axe handle or the bite of a cotton boll, against the landscape of your own skin, the calluses on your fingers, the tiny faded scar near your thumb from a careless slip with a paring knife. In that single point of contact, the story of your two separate worlds is told. And as you stand there, his warmth seeping into your skin, the present moment dissolves, and you are adrift in a memory of the beginning. The memory is not dark and hushed like this clearing, but bright and loud with the work of the day. You are behind the great house, at the washing station, your arms submerged to the elbows in a large wooden tub of soapy water. The sun is high and hot, beating down on your head, which you've wrapped in a strip of spare cotton. The sharp, clean smell of lye soap fills the air, a scent so familiar it is practically a part of you. You are working alongside Charity, the head cook, a woman whose silence could be heavier than any scolding. The rhythmic plunge and scrub of laundry is the only sound between you. He had walked past before, many times. A silent figure on his way to the stables or the gardens, his head often bent over a book he carried with him. You were part of the scenery to him then, another figure of labor, no different from the pump or the woodpile. But on this day he stopped. You didn't notice him at first. You were wrestling with one of his father's heavy linen shirts, trying to work a stubborn stain out of the collar. That is a difficult task. His voice, so close, made you jump. You looked up, shielding your eyes from the sun. He was standing just a few feet away, his shadow falling over you. He wasn't looking at the shirt. He was looking at your face. No one from the great house ever truly looked at your face. They looked at your hands to see if the work was done. They looked at your feet to see if you were moving fast enough. But your face? That was uncharted territory. Charity went still beside you, her hands frozen in the water. Her presence was a silent, powerful warning. "Master Thomas," you said, your voice coming out rough. You didn't curtsy. You were holding a dripping wet shirt, and your back ached. Some days defiance was simply the act of standing still. "My name is Thomas, yes," he said, as if you didn't know. "I do not know yours." This was the moment that changed things. The request for a name. A name is a private thing, a piece of yourself. To be asked for it, rather than just be called by whatever name was convenient, was a strange and unsettling courtesy. "It's Sarah," you told him. He'd smiled, a small, tentative thing. He'd asked you about a bird he'd seen, or a passage in a book he was reading, something about a Greek philosopher's view on the soul, as if that was a normal topic to broach while you were elbow-deep in suds. It was absurd, and yet, no one had ever asked for your thoughts on the soul before. They only cared about the strength of your body. That was the first thread. Others followed. A book left on a bench near the well, a shared glance across the yard, a quietly spoken word in the hallway when you were delivering fresh water. Each one a risk, each one a small act of seeing. You knew, with a certainty that chilled you, that this was a dangerous game. Your fellow enslaved people saw it too. They saw the way his eyes would follow you. Some looked at you with pity, others with suspicion. Love in this place was a liability, a proper union, a bond blessed by your own community by jumping over a broom was a dream of stability, a promise to face the harsh world together. This thing with him was the opposite. It was a promise of chaos. The memory fades, the bright sun of that afternoon dissolving back into the deep, velvety dark of the woods. You are back in the clearing, the crickets singing their relentless song. His hand is still holding yours. Slowly, carefully, you pull your hand away. It is not a rejection, but an act of returning to reality. You take a step back, putting a little more of the night air between you. "This is not a poem," you say, your voice low but clear. "This is not a story in one of your books, Thomas. Do you see what just happened? The dogs? The horses? That is the world I live in. There are no secret clearings in it. Not really." You look at him, and you see the conflict in his face. He is a kind man. You believe that. But his kindness is a luxury, grown in soft soil. He talks of philosophy and the stars, but your life is governed by the sun and the overseer's bell. Historians will one day debate the small ways enslaved people found to resist, to claim autonomy over their own lives. They will call it agency. Right now, you wonder if this secret meeting is an act of agency or just a beautiful, foolish dream that will end in a nightmare. You look at the man before you and see both the boy who gave you a book and the living symbol of the house that holds you in bondage. And you feel the terrifying weight of the space between. He looks at your face in the dappled moonlight, and you see something in his eyes that you did not expect. Not anger, not wounded pride, but a deep, troubled helplessness. Your words have found their mark, not like an arrow, but like a key turning in a lock he did not know was there. He who has lived his life in the grand house of answers has none for you. "I know," he says, and the words are barely a whisper. "I know it is not a story. I know my words are thin." He gestures with his hands, a frustrated motion, as if trying to grasp the right language from the air itself. "I spend my days in my father's study, reading words about liberty, about the rights of man, about justice. And then I walk outside and I see this place. I see you. It feels like a sickness, a lie I am living in." He takes a step closer again, but not too close. He respects the space you have made. "I am not my father, Sarah. I hate this life. I hate what it is built on." You listen, your face impassive. You have heard words like these before, whispered by well-meaning people. They are often followed by a sigh of resignation, an acceptance that the world is what it is. His passionate conviction is that of someone who has never had a plan, ruined by something as inconvenient as reality. "I have a plan," he says, his voice gaining a sliver of its earlier hope. "I am of age next year. I will have a small inheritance, my mother's portion. It is not much, but I have been saving. I could purchase your freedom. My father, he values coin above all else. I could make him an offer." You hear the words, "purchase your freedom." The word purchase lands like a stone in your stomach. To be bought, even into freedom, is still to be a commodity, a thing whose value can be settled with currency. You think of your name. The one he calls you is Sarah, the name given to you on a ledger. But your mother, before she was taken away, called you Amara. It meant grace. It is a name you hold inside you, a secret kernel of identity that no ledger can account for and no money can buy. His plan continues, tumbling out of him in a hopeful rush. "Or when I leave this place, and I will leave, you could come with me. We could go north, to Philadelphia. It is different there. There are free black communities. We could—" He trails off, the enormity of what he is suggesting finally dawning on him. You let him finish. You let the silence that follows his words stretch and settle. It is a beautiful plan, much like the delicate spiderwebs you have to clear from the porch every morning. You know it wouldn't survive the first light of day. You think of the laws, the ones he has not had to learn. Manumission is not a simple transaction. It is a petition, a court filing, a bond posted to ensure the freed person does not become a burden on the state. It is a public spectacle designed to discourage the very act. And the thought of his father, a man who views his people as he views his livestock, simply agreeing to sell you, it is a fantasy. A colder thought finds you, a thought that winds its way through the histories of plantations just like this one. What of a child? The law of this land is clear, a cruel and simple rule, partus sequitur ventrum. The child follows the condition of the mother. A child born to you would be born a slave. His father's property, his own family's property. The thought is so monstrous you feel a chill despite the humid air. Is this what historians will debate one day? The tangled knot of love and ownership, where affection could still produce property? You do not voice these tangled, thorny truths. You do not crush the fragile hope in his eyes. Instead, you offer him a piece of the practical world, a simple, heavy stone of a question. "And how would we get to this Philadelphia?" you ask, your voice calm and even. "On what road? With what travel pass for me? Signed by whom? Who would hide us when the patrols, or men far worse, come looking for my master's stolen property?" You pause and let the last two words hang in the air between you. Stolen property. That is what you would be. He opens his mouth to answer, but no sound comes out. The beautiful, airy construction of his plan collapses under the weight of a single, practical question. He looks down at his own hands, those smooth, clean hands, as if realizing for the first time how utterly useless they would be in the face of such a journey. The hope drains from his face, leaving behind the same helplessness you saw before, only deeper this time. He has no answer, and in that silence, you both stand in the truth of your situation, a truth as dark and profound as the forest that surrounds you. The silence in the clearing is now a shared thing, a heavy blanket woven from his dashed hopes and your stark reality. The crickets seem to have moved on from their earlier pronouncements and are now engaged in what sounds like idle, speculative gossip. He is looking at the ground, defeated. The energy that had propelled the conversation forward has dissipated, leaving a quiet, melancholic vacuum in its wake. You could leave him like this. You could turn and walk away, leaving him alone with the ruins of his plan. It might be the safer thing to do, the cleaner break. But your heart, a foolish, stubborn organ, urges you toward a different kind of closure for the night. You guide the conversation away from the impossible future and back to the tangible present. "Look," you say softly, breaking the quiet. You lift your chin toward the sky, where the canopy of oak leaves parts to reveal a swath of stars. The moon is a sliver of bone-white light, but the stars are brilliant, scattered like salt across dark fabric. Up there, do you see the curve of stars? The ones that look like a gourd with a long handle? He follows your gaze, his face turned upward. He squints for a moment, then nods. The astronomers call it Ursa Minor, the little bear. My grandmother called it the drinking gourd, you say. She said that if you were ever lost in the dark, you should find it. She said the two stars at the edge of the cup always point to the one star that never moves, the North Star. You don't say that she told you this not for stargazing, but for surviving. That following the drinking gourd was the first lesson in the geography of freedom. It is a piece of dangerous knowledge, but shared this way, as folklore, it feels like a bridge. You are sharing a map from your world, one that isn't drawn on paper. He is quiet for a long time, just looking at the sky. He isn't seeing a bear or a collection of burning gas. He is seeing a gourd. He is seeing it through your eyes. I never knew that, he says, his voice filled with a quiet wonder. This is a knowledge his books did not contain. It is a wisdom that was born of necessity, passed down in whispers from one generation to the next. The survival of this knowledge, a secret star map passed from Africa to this Virginia forest, is a small, stubborn miracle. Historians may debate how much culture survived the brutal crossing, but you know it lives. It lives in the stories you tell, the herbs you carry, the stars you read. A new sound drifts toward you from the direction of the quarters. It is faint and mournful, a thin, reedy melody. The sound of a musical instrument made from a hollowed-out gourd, its strings plucked with a sorrowful sweetness. It is a lonely sound, a sound that speaks of memory and loss, but also of a beauty that persists in the most barren of soils. The music is a reminder. It is the sound of your world, calling you back. I must go, you say. The spell of the clearing is broken. The risk of your absence grows with every passing minute. He nods, his eyes still holding a trace of the night sky's wonder. Will you? He stops himself. He does not ask if he will see you again. He is learning that promises are a luxury you cannot afford. Be careful on the path, is all he says. You too, you reply. You give him one last look, a silent acknowledgement of the complicated, fragile thing that lies between you. Then you turn, and without a backward glance, you melt into the shadows of the trees. The journey back feels different. Your body is tired, but your mind is awake, alive. You feel the heavy presence of the leather-bound book of poetry tucked in your skirt, a tangible piece of his world. You feel the memory of his hand on yours, a phantom warmth. And you feel the steady ancient light of the drinking gourd on your shoulders, a silent guide in the darkness, as you make your way back to the world where you belong, carrying a head full of thoughts that weigh more than any sack of flour. The return path to the quarters is a journey through a different kind of darkness. The woods felt alive, a shared space of secrets. The manicured grounds of the plantation feel sterile and full of eyes, even in the dead of night. You move like a ghost through the familiar landscape, a shadow slipping between other larger shadows cast by the smokehouse and the carpentry shed. The only sound is the soft shush of your own bare feet on the packed earth. You reach the row of cabins, dark and silent lumps under the moon. A dog chained near the overseer's house raises its head and gives a low, questioning whine, but it knows your scent. It lays its head back down. You have learned the art of moving in a way that does not disturb the order of things, a skill as vital as knowing how to plant tobacco. Your cabin door is a simple plank of wood that scrapes against the jamb. You ease it open a fraction of an inch at a time, a sound you know so well you could replicate it in your sleep. The air that greets you is thick and warm, smelling of sleep, straw, and the faint, lingering scent of the day's sweat. It is the smell of humanity packed close. Privacy, you reflect, is a concept as luxurious and out of reach as the silk dresses the mistress wears. Your only true privacy is inside your own head. Inside, the darkness is absolute. You stand for a moment, letting your eyes adjust, listening to the soft sounds of breathing around you. Your mother and younger brother are asleep on a pallet near the hearth. An elderly man named Samuel, whose wife was sold away last spring, has the other corner. His soft, wheezing snore is a nightly companion. You are all a family in the planter's ledgers, a unit of labor. In truth, you are a small collection of survivors, tethered by proximity and a shared, unspoken weariness. The most difficult part is next. The book. Thomas's gift is a lead weight in your pocket. It is evidence. It is a brand. Finding a place for it is a task requiring more cunning than any chore you are assigned in the daylight. Your pallet, stuffed with corn husks and straw, is the most obvious place, and therefore the worst. Samuel is quiet, but grief has made him watchful. Your mother's exhaustion is deep, but a mother's senses are never truly asleep. There is a loose board in the floor beneath your pallet, a discovery you made years ago when you dropped a sewing needle and heard it fall into a hollow space beneath. You kneel, your movements slow and deliberate, a silent prayer on your lips. You lift the edge of your pallet, find the seam of the board with your fingers, and gently pry it up. The space below is cool and smells of damp earth. It already holds your other treasures: a smooth river stone your father gave you, a small cloth bundle with the single remaining button from your mother's wedding dress, and the stolen primer you learned to read from. You place the leather-bound book of poetry inside, nestling it beside the primer. 2 books, one that taught you the shape of words, the other that promised a world beyond them. You gently lower the floorboard back into place, smoothing the dirt around it, and then pull your pallet back over the spot. The secret is buried. You lie down on the rustling straw, which has spent years patiently molding itself to the shape of your body's complaints. But sleep is a distant country. Your mind is a whirlwind. You see Thomas's earnest, helpless face in the moonlight. You feel the rough texture of the log, the smooth cover of the book, the impossible warmth of his hand. You hear the baying of the hounds, a sound that even now sends a fresh tremor of fear through you. You think of Charity, the cook. You are certain that tomorrow she will look at you with those all-knowing eyes, and she will see this new secret written all over you. You are sure Charity can smell secrets the way she can smell when bread is perfectly baked. The thought makes you feel profoundly alone. This secret is a wall, isolating you not just from the great house, but from your own people. Who could you tell? Who would understand? To confess it would be to burden someone else with its danger, or worse, to invite their judgment, their fear, their scorn. Historians will one day write about the solidarity of the enslaved, a vital truth, but they may miss the subtle, painful cracks in that foundation, the loneliness of a secret too dangerous to share. Lying in the dark, you crave a simple comfort: the bitter, earthy taste of sweet potato coffee, a brew made from roasted peelings that has nothing to do with the fine coffee served in the great house. It is a taste of your own world, of making something from nothing. But the fire is cold ash, and the cabin is silent. There is no comfort to be had. There is only you, and the hard, rectangular shape of the book you can feel through the thin mattress, a hidden truth pressed against your back. The bell rings. It is not a gentle awakening. It is a sharp, metallic command that slices through the morning mist and into the deepest corners of sleep. It's an obnoxious metal rooster that crows not when the sun rises, but when the master's profit margins demand it. Around you the cabin stirs, a symphony of soft groans, coughs, and the rustle of straw as bodies rise to meet the day. You sit up, your back aching, your mind still thick with the residue of the night. The air is cool, and you pull your thin blanket around your shoulders as you watch your mother move toward the hearth to coax a new fire to life. Soon, the cabin will be filled with the smoky, aromatic scent of sassafras root boiling in a pot of water, a morning tea to wash away the taste of sleep and prepare the body for labor. You avoid looking at anyone for too long. You feel as though your secret is a visible thing, a strange light shining from your eyes. As you sip the hot, fragrant tea from a tin cup, you go over your plan for the day. Keep your head down, your hands busy, and your mouth shut. Outside, the plantation is coming to life. The overseer, A man named Miller with pale, disinterested eyes stands by the tool shed, shouting out the day's assignments. You wait your turn, your eyes on the ground. You are often assigned to the fields, but sometimes, when the mistress is entertaining or feeling particularly industrious, you are called to the great house. The work there is less strenuous on the body, but harder on the soul. Scholars will debate whether the life of a house servant was better than that of a field hand, but you know the truth is complicated. Proximity to power is a dangerous thing. It offers opportunities for scraps of kindness, but also exposes you to constant, unpredictable scrutiny. "Sarah," Miller calls out, not looking at you. "The mistress wants the silver polish today. All of it. Be quick about it." Your heart gives a little jump. The great house. Today, of all days. You simply nod, a practiced gesture of compliance, a mask that has taken you years to perfect, and turn toward the main building. The walk you took in darkness just hours ago, you now retrace in the bright, unforgiving light of morning. The house, which was a soft-edged shadow in the twilight, now seems immense and sharp, its white columns like bones in the sun. You enter through the back, into the kitchen, a domain ruled by charity. The air is already hot and filled with the scent of baking bread and frying bacon for the family's breakfast. Charity is at a large wooden table, her hands deftly kneading a mountain of dough. She doesn't look up as you enter, but you feel her presence, her awareness of you. "The Polish is in the pantry," she says, her voice flat. "And see that you use the soft cloths. The mistress was complaining about scratches on the candlesticks last week." "Yes, Charity," you say, your voice small in the cavernous room. You retrieve the pot of polishing paste and the soft linen rags and make your way to the formal dining room. It is a cold, imposing space, dominated by a long, dark mahogany table and a dozen matching chairs. Your task is laid out on a sideboard: silver trays, teapots, cutlery, and candlesticks, all dulled by a thin layer of tarnish. You begin to work, the repetitive motion a strange comfort. You dip the cloth, rub the paste in small circular motions, and then buff the piece until it gleams with a startling cold light. The silver is heavy, ornate. You can see your own distorted reflection in the belly of a sugar bowl, a dark, elongated face with wide, watchful eyes. You work in silence, the only sounds the soft scrape of your cloth on the metal and the distant muffled sounds of the house waking up. You hear the mistress calling for her morning tea. You hear the master's heavy, booted footsteps on the floor above. This is the lion's den. Every sound is information. Every footstep is a potential threat. You are focused on a particularly intricate pattern, on the handle of a serving spoon, when you hear another set of footsteps approaching the dining room. These are lighter, quicker. Not the master's heavy tread, nor the mistress's brisk clip. You know these footsteps. Your heart begins to hammer against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. You keep your head down, your hands moving, rubbing the same spot on the spoon over and over again. You pray he will just pass by, that he is on his way to the library or the front porch. But the footsteps stop in the doorway. You don't look up. You can feel his presence, his gaze on you. The vast, silent room shrinks, the air growing thick and charged. The secret world of the moonlit clearing and the public world of the sunlit dining room are about to collide, and you are standing at the epicenter. The silence stretches, thin and taut. You keep your eyes fixed on the silver spoon in your hand, its surface now flawlessly bright. You can feel Thomas's presence in the doorway like a change in the weather, a sudden drop in pressure before a storm. The air, which was cool and still, now crackles with a dangerous energy. "Sarah," he says, and your name in his mouth here in this room is a lit match in a house made of dry tinder. His voice is low, trying to carry the intimacy of the previous night, an impossible task in the stark light of morning. You force yourself to look up, but only for a second. You do not meet his eyes, but fix your gaze on the knot of his cravat. You dip your head in a gesture that is both acknowledgement and dismissal. "Master Thomas," you say. Your voice is flat, devoid of warmth, a tool of polite servitude. You use his title as a shield, a wall you are desperately rebuilding between you. He takes a step into the room, a foolish, reckless step. I was just wondering, he begins, searching for a pretext. If the work is going well. He asks about the silver, a topic you are certain he has never spent a single moment of his life thinking about. It is, you reply, your hands resuming their work, a frantic, repetitive motion. Polish, buff, set aside. Polish, buff, set aside. He is not deterred. He takes another step. I was also hoping, he says, lowering his voice even more, that you might have had a chance to look at that reading material, the poetry. Your blood runs cold. The sheer, breathtaking recklessness of his question, spoken aloud in his father's house, makes you feel dizzy. Before you can even form a response, a denial, a plea for silence, a third voice cuts through the air, sharp and brittle as ice. Thomas? It is his mother, the mistress. She stands at the opposite end of the dining room, having entered from the main hall. She is a tall, severe woman, her posture as rigid and unyielding as the corset that shapes it. Her eyes, the same pale blue as her son's but without any of their softness, move from Thomas to you and back again. She takes in the scene, her son, standing where he has no business being, and you, a servant, frozen in mid-task. What are you doing in here? She asks him, her tone clipped. You are interrupting her work. Thomas is startled. He looks like a boy caught stealing a pie. Mother, I thought I might have left a letter on the sideboard last evening. He gestures vaguely toward the furniture, his excuse thin and unconvincing. The mistress's eyes narrow. She does not believe him, but to challenge him further would be to cause a scene, and she detests scenes. Instead, she turns her formidable attention to you. She glides closer, her silk dress whispering against the polished floor. She picks up a candlestick you have just finished, holding it up to the light, scrutinizing your labor. The silver is a mirror, reflecting the stern set of her mouth. For the planter class, this gleaming metal is the bedrock of their identity, a symbol of a civilized order they have imposed on a world of heat and brutality. Your job is to keep that symbol spotless, to erase any tarnish, any evidence of decay. There is a smudge, she says, pointing with a manicured finger to a spot you cannot see. Do it again. I will not have mediocrity at my table. Yes, mistress, you whisper, your eyes downcast. It is a dismissal, a reminder of your place, a reassertion of the uncrossable line her son seemed so determined to ignore. Come, Thomas, she says, turning her back on you. Your father is looking for you. Something about the accounts for the mill. She steers him out of the room by his elbow, her voice a low, admonishing murmur. He glances back at you over his shoulder, his face a mixture of apology and frustration. You do not watch him go. You stare at the candlestick in your hand, its metal now ice cold against your skin. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. You are alone again in the silent, magnificent room. But the silence is different now. It is filled with the echoes of the close call, the ghost of a conversation that could have ruined you both. The danger you felt in the woods was a wild thing, a thing of darkness and chance. This felt colder, more deliberate. A trap you had walked right into. Your hands are trembling so badly you can barely hold the polishing cloth. You take a deep, steadying breath, the air tasting of metal and beeswax, and force your fingers to still. You do not repolish the candlestick. It is flawless. The mistress's comment was not about the silver, it was about power. You finish the last few pieces with mechanical efficiency, your mind a blank wall against the fear that is trying to seep through. When the task is done, you gather the cloths and the pot of paste and retreat from the cold grandeur of the dining room. You need to return to the kitchen, to the heat and noise and relative anonymity of the work. But as you push open the kitchen door, you feel a sense of dread. The close call with the mistress was one kind of danger. The conversation you are about to have is another. The kitchen is a furnace of activity. The air is thick with steam and the rich smells of roasting meat and simmering greens. Two younger girls are scrubbing pots at a large basin, and another is turning a spit over the fire. And in the center of it all, standing at her massive work table, is Charity. She is chopping onions with a large, heavy knife, the blade falling with a swift, rhythmic chop, 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 that seems to be keeping time with your own nervous heart. She does not look up when you enter, but she knows you are there. Everyone in the kitchen knows. The other girls fall silent, their eyes darting towards you and then away again. You place the cleaning supplies on a shelf, your back to her. You can feel her gaze on you, so penetrating you're surprised it doesn't leave a small scorched mark on your skin. "Is it done?" Charity asks. Her voice is deceptively calm. The chopping does not stop. "Yes, Charity." To the mistress's satisfaction, chop, chop, yes. She finishes with the onion, sweeps the pieces into a large iron pot, and then wipes her hands on her apron. She turns to you. Her face is unreadable, her dark eyes holding a wisdom that feels centuries old. You suddenly feel like a child who has been caught with her hand in the honey pot, except the honey is a book of poetry, and the pot is the master's son. She picks up a dipper of water and takes a long, slow drink before she speaks again. "My grandmother used to tell me a story," she says, her voice low, "meant only for you, though the whole kitchen is listening. About a little brown sparrow who loved the sound of the music coming from the great house. Every day she would fly from her own kind in the woods and perch on the windowsill to listen. She thought the man who played the flute was her friend, because he sometimes left crumbs for her on the sill." She pauses, looking at you intently. "The sparrow, she got bold. She started to think that windowsill was her place. She started to think the crumbs were a promise. One day, she flew right into the house when the window was open. The master's cat was waiting." Charity lets the story hang in the air. She never mentions Thomas, never mentions his mother, never says she saw a thing. She doesn't have to. The message is as sharp and clear as her knife. "I see you. I know what you are doing. You are the sparrow. This house has cats. Stop before you get yourself killed. Stop before you bring that cat into our nests." This is the dual role of a woman like Charity, a role historians will struggle to define. She is both protector and enforcer. Her warning is an act of communal care, an attempt to shield you, to shield all of them from the fallout of your choices. But it is also a judgment. It is the enforcement of the hard, bitter rules that have allowed them all to survive. There is nothing you can say. To deny it would be a lie. To explain it would be impossible. You can only stand there, exposed, the heat of the kitchen fire on your face, feeling a deeper, more searing heat inside. It is the burn of shame, of fear, and of being utterly, terribly seen. You give a slight, almost imperceptible nod. You have received the warning. You turn and walk out of the kitchen, away from the knowing eyes and the cautionary tales, feeling more alone than you ever did in the silent moonlit woods. The walls are not just in the great house. They are everywhere. The days that follow fold into one another, each a copy of the last, baked hard under the relentless Virginia sun. A fragile, unspoken truce has settled over the plantation. You have become an expert in the geography of avoidance, mastering the paths and schedules that ensure your orbit and Thomas's never intersect. You see him sometimes, a distant figure walking near the stables or reading on the veranda. You feel his eyes on you from across the yard, a silent, lingering question. But he makes no move to approach, and you offer no encouragement. You busy your hands with your work, pulling weeds from the garden, mending torn linens, hauling buckets of water, each task a small, solid brick in the wall you are building around yourself. Charity's warning echoes in the quiet moments, her story of the foolish sparrow a constant refrain. The mistress's cold glare has become a permanent fixture in your memory. The fear they instilled has not faded. Instead, it has settled deep into your bones, a low, constant hum of anxiety. You watch the overseer, Miller, his moods and movements, with a new and sharpened attention. You see the casual cruelty of the system with a terrifying clarity. They all live their lives with the loud, careless confidence of people who have never had to check over their shoulder. One afternoon, the hum of fear becomes a roar. A young boy, no older than your brother, is tasked with watching the goats. One wanders off, finding its way into the mistress's prized kitchen garden, where it nibbles on her delicate lettuce. You are nearby, drawing water from the well when Miller spots the damage. You do not see the blow, but you hear it. The sickening thwack of a leather strap, followed by a sharp cry that is quickly choked back. Miller's voice is low and furious, not shouting, which is somehow worse. When he walks away, the boy is left standing by the garden fence, not making a sound, his small body rigid, his face turned away from the rest of you. No one goes to him. Not yet. To offer comfort too quickly is to draw the overseer's anger to yourself. You all stand for a moment, frozen in a shared, silent acknowledgement of the brutal truth. The distance between a careless mistake and agonizing pain is terrifyingly short. That night, the walls of the cabin feel closer than ever. The air is thick with the snores and sighs of your family, but the image of the boy by the fence has left you feeling raw and exposed. Sleep will not come. You need something else, an escape. You wait until the breathing in the cabin has deepened into the rhythm of profound sleep. The fire has burned down to a small, pulsing heart of red embers, casting a faint, ghostly light. With infinite care, you retrieve the book from its hiding place beneath the floor. The cool leather feels like a secret communion in your hands. You huddle by the hearth, angling the page to catch the dim, unreliable glow of the embers. The ink is black against the page, the letters elegant and strange. You find a poem you had marked with a tiny folded corner of the page. It is one of Donne's holy sonnets. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. You read the words slowly, whispering them to yourself, your lips barely moving. The language is dense. The idea is a world away from your own. He writes of death, God, and eternal life with a scholarly, passionate confidence. It is the language of a man who has never had his life owned by another, and yet the defiance in the words resonates deep within you. Death, be not proud. It is a challenge, a refusal to be intimidated by the ultimate power. In a life circumscribed by fear, this small act of reading, of wrestling with complex ideas, feels like a monumental act of rebellion. It is a space in your own mind that Miller and the mistress cannot touch. It is your own. You read until the embers fade to a soft gray ash, plunging the room into total darkness. You close the book, your head full of sonnets about the soul's eternity, and prepare to face a morning where you will be tasked with weeding a patch of beans. The contrast is not lost on you. Carefully, you place the book back in its earthen vault and lie down, the defiant words a silent chant in your mind. The escape has not lessened your fear, but it has fortified a small, essential part of you that refuses to be extinguished. The heat of late summer settles in, thick and suffocating. It is a stagnant, breathless heat that seems to breed sickness. A cough starts in one cabin, a fever in another. It moves through the quarters like a malevolent spirit, a thin, wheezing whisper passed from person to person in the close night air. You pray it will pass over your door. You sent a prayer up, but you suspected the sky above the plantation was crowded with similar, unanswered requests. One evening, your mother does not eat her portion of cornbread and fatback. She says she is merely tired, but you see the unnatural brightness in her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. By morning, she is burning with fever. You do what you have been taught. You brew a bitter tea from willow bark to fight the fever. You gather boneset, the fever weed, and steep it in hot water. You keep cool, damp cloths on her forehead, changing them as soon as they grow warm with her heat. Your small cabin becomes a sick room, filled with the sharp medicinal scent of herbs and the low sound of your mother's labored breathing. The other women in the quarters offer what they can. A bit of advice, a whispered prayer, a story of a similar fever that was broken by this root or that leaf. But this fever is stubborn. It clings to her. 2 days pass, and she grows weaker, delirious at times, muttering names and places from a past you do not know. Her skin is dry and hot to the touch. The folk remedies, the knowledge passed down from your grandmother, are not working. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prick at the edges of your composure. You know there is other medicine. In the great house, the mistress keeps a locked wooden chest full of remedies for her own family. Powders and tinctures bought from an apothecary in town. Among them, you know, is Peruvian bark, a reddish powder that can quell the most violent fevers. But this medicine is rarely, if ever, dispensed to the enslaved unless the person is deemed too valuable to lose. A field hand's mother is not a valuable asset in the master's cold arithmetic. To ask is to invite refusal, to be reminded of your own disposability. On the third night, your mother's breathing becomes a shallow, rattling sound that terrifies you. The fear of losing her finally outweighs the fear of the great house. Desperation becomes a kind of courage. You have to try. You leave your brother to watch over her and step out into the night. The air is still and heavy. You walk the familiar path to the back of the great house, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm of dread and resolve. You are about to beg for help from the very people who created the conditions for this sickness to thrive. The irony is as bitter as any medicine. You plan to knock on the kitchen door, to find Charity and ask her advice on how to approach the mistress with such a desperate plea. Charity, for all her sternness, would understand the fear. She would know the right way, if a right way even existed. You raise your hand to knock on the hard wood of the kitchen door, but before your knuckles can make contact, the door swings inward. He is standing there, silhouetted against the warm light from within. Thomas. He was on his way out, perhaps for a late walk in the cool of the evening. He stops short when he sees you. His face registers surprise, then concern as he takes in your appearance, your disheveled state, the sheer panic in your eyes. The weeks of silence, of carefully maintained distance are shattered in an instant. You are face to face, the space between you charged not with forbidden love, but with the raw, urgent terror of impending death. For a moment, you both just stand there, frozen at the threshold between the dark yard and the lamplit kitchen. His face, illuminated from behind, is a mask of shadow, but you can see the immediate shift in his posture from casual ease to sharp concern. "Sarah? What is it? What's wrong?" he asks, his voice a low, urgent whisper. The words spill out of you, a frantic, hushed torrent. You tell him about your mother, the fever that won't break, the herbs that have failed. You tell him she is fading, and that your only hope is the Peruvian bark from his mother's medicine chest. You don't ask him to get it. You don't know what you are asking for. You are simply stating the impossible equation of your desperation. He doesn't hesitate. He glances quickly back into the empty kitchen, then out into the dark yard. He reaches out, takes you by the arm, and pulls you inside, quickly and quietly shutting the door behind you. The sudden coolness of the stone floor beneath your bare feet is a shock. You are inside, at night, an intruder in the heart of the enemy's camp. "Wait here," he says, his eyes wide with a new, determined light. He guides you into the shadows of the adjoining pantry, a small, cool room that smells of dried apples, smoked meat, and flour. Don't make a sound. You press yourself back against a row of shelves, your body trembling. You listen as his soft-soled shoes retreat from the kitchen, his footsteps fading on the wooden floors of the main house. You are alone, surrounded by the carefully managed abundance of the great house. Every sound is magnified, the groaning sigh of the house settling, the distant chime of a clock, the frantic drumming of your own heart. This is a new and more terrifying form of risk. You are a conspirator now, an accomplice to a crime against the mistress of the house. An eternity passes, measured in heartbeats. Then you hear him returning, his steps just as quiet, just as swift. He reappears in the pantry doorway, and in his hand, he holds a small, ornate iron key. His face is pale in the dim light, but his expression is resolute. He has crossed a line, moving from a boy who spoke of poetry and freedom to a man taking direct, dangerous action. "The chest is in here," he whispers, gesturing for you to follow him. He leads you to a large, wooden chest, bound with iron straps, sitting against the far wall of the pantry. It looked like a treasure chest, as if the cures for mortal illness ought to be stored in something so ornate. He kneels, and the key scrapes loudly in the lock. He fumbles for a moment, his hands unaccustomed to such tasks, before the lock gives a loud click. He lifts the heavy lid. The air fills with a complex medicinal smell: camphor, lavender, alcohol, and a dozen other sharp herbal scents. The inside of the chest is a neat ordered world of small glass bottles, ceramic pots, and folded paper packets tied with string, each marked with his mother's precise, spidery handwriting. This chest is the source of her power, her control over the health and life of every soul on this plantation, and you are robbing it. "Here," he says, his fingers finding a small packet marked Peruvian bark. "This is it." He presses the small folded paper into your hand. It feels impossibly light, a mere dusting of powder to hold back the weight of death. He then reaches for another container. "And this." He pours a small mound of white crystalline powder into another piece of paper and folds it carefully. "Sugar. It is terribly bitter. This will help." You stare at the two packets in your palm, the medicine and the sugar, a cure and a comfort, an act of rebellion and an act of kindness, tangled together. "Go," he urges, guiding you back towards the kitchen door. "Quickly. Be careful." His hand rests on your shoulder for a second, a brief, firm pressure that is not romantic or tender, but a gesture of shared conspiracy, of solidarity in this desperate moment. You give him one wide-eyed, grateful look, a look that says everything you cannot speak. Then, you are out the door, clutching the precious powders in your fist, running on silent feet back across the dark yard, back towards the dim light of your cabin, your chest a wild, chaotic storm of terror and a fragile, burgeoning hope. You burst back into your cabin like a gust of wind, your breath coming in ragged gasps. Your younger brother, who has been keeping a fearful vigil, looks up at you, his eyes wide and questioning in the dim light of a single tallow lamp. You don't speak. There is no time for explanations. You move to the hearth, your hands working with a speed born of desperation. You pour a little water into a cup, your hands shaking so much that some of it spills. You unfold the first paper packet, the reddish-brown powder from the Andes, a world away. Then you add the second, the impossibly white grains of real sugar, a treasure more precious than gold. You stir the mixture with your finger, creating a gritty, dark paste. Kneeling by your mother's side on the pallet, you gently lift her head. "Mama," you whisper, your voice cracking. "Mama, you must drink this." She is barely conscious, her lips dry and cracked. Her eyes flutter but do not see you. It is a struggle to get the bitter, grainy liquid into her mouth, to coax her to swallow. You dribble it past her lips a little at a time, stroking her throat, whispering pleas and encouragements. Some of it spills down her chin, a dark stain on her shift, but you manage to get most of it down. And then, there is nothing left to do. The act of running, of stealing, of doing, is over. Now, there is only waiting. You sit on the dirt floor beside her, holding her limp, hot hand. You watch the faint rise and fall of her chest. You listen to the shallow, rasping sound of her breath, trying to detect any change, any shift. Waiting is its own form of work, harder on the soul than a day in the fields, with no guarantee of a harvest. You pray, a jumbled mess of Christian words your mother taught you, and older, deeper pleas to spirits you felt you knew in your bones. An hour creeps by, each minute a lifetime. The only sound is your mother's breathing and the frantic pounding of your own blood in your ears. Then the cabin door creaks open. You look up, your heart leaping into your throat, expecting the overseer or worse. But the figure silhouetted in the doorway is shorter, wider. It is Charity. She must have seen the light in your cabin, Or perhaps she heard your frantic flight from the great house. She steps inside, her presence filling the small space. Her face is a grim mask. She looks from your terrified face to the sick woman on the pallet, to the empty cup on the floor. Her eyes seem to take in the entire situation in a single sweeping glance. She doesn't need to ask what you have done. "Did you get it?" she asks, her voice a low rumble. It is not an accusation. It is a simple, practical question. You are too frightened to speak, so you just nod, bracing yourself for the scolding, for the lecture about the sparrow and the cat, for the anger you are sure you deserve for bringing such risk upon them. Instead, Charity lets out a long, slow breath. She looks at your mother, and for a moment, the hard lines of her face soften into something that looks like pity, or perhaps just a deep, weary understanding. She knows better than anyone the limits of willow bark and bone-set tea. She knows the calculus of survival. Without another word, she leaves, and you think you have been dismissed, abandoned. But a few minutes later, she returns. In her hands, she carries a small wooden bowl from which steam is rising. She has brought broth from the great house kitchen, stolen for your mother. It is a peace offering, an act of complicity, an acknowledgement that your desperate gamble was one she might have made herself. She sets the bowl down and pulls up a small stool, seating herself on the other side of your mother's pallet. She does not speak, but her presence is a comfort, a solid anchor in the terrifying sea of your uncertainty. You are no longer alone in your vigil. The two of you sit in silence, 2 generations of women watching over a third, bound by a shared secret and a desperate hope. The lamp flickers, casting long shadows on the rough wooden walls. Suddenly your mother stirs. A low moan escapes her lips. You both lean in closer, your heart stopped, your breath held. You place your hand on her forehead. It is still hot, but there is a change. A faint, almost imperceptible sheen of moisture. A single bead of sweat. You look at Charity, your eyes asking the question you dare not voice. Is the fever breaking? You hold your breath, leaning so close to your mother's face that you can feel the faint, warm air of her exhalation. The single bead of sweat on her temple is a miracle, a tiny, glistening planet in the vast, dark universe of your fear. Then, another appears on her upper lip, and another on her neck. Charity's hand, rough and sure, meets yours as she too touches your mother's forehead. Her eyes meet yours in the flickering lamplight, and you see not a question, but a confirmation. The breaking has begun. The rest of the night passes in a blur of focused, exhausting work. The fever does not vanish in a wave. It recedes like a slow tide, fighting for every inch. This is the crisis, the turning point where the battle between the medicine and the sickness is waged on the field of your mother's body. Guided by Charity's gruff, steady commands, you bathe your mother's skin with cool water, forcing sips of water between her lips, changing the sweat-soaked palate beneath her. Charity's nursing style involves a series of practical whispered orders that are somehow more comforting than any sweet words could be. She is a general in this small, desperate war, and you are her loyal soldier. Through the long, dark hours, she does not speak of Thomas, or the mistress, or the risk. She speaks only of the task at hand. More water. Lift her head. Hold her steady. A new and profound bond is forged between you in the shared intimacy of the sick room, a bond of unspoken complicity and mutual respect. The formidable cook, the enforcer of rules, has become your silent, formidable ally. As the first pale gray light of dawn seeps through the cracks in the cabin walls, the worst is over. Your mother lies in a deep, peaceful sleep, her skin damp and cool to the touch. Her breathing, which was a shallow, frightening rasp, has deepened into a slow, even rhythm. The fever has broken. The relief is so heavy it feels like another kind of exhaustion. It washes over you, making your limbs feel weighted, your head swim. You feel you could sleep for a week, preferably somewhere no one is either dying or trying to warn you about your life choices. Charity seems to sense this. "Go," she says, her voice still a low rumble, but softer now. "Rest your eyes for a spell. I will watch her. You do not argue. You collapse onto your own pallet and fall into a sleep so deep it is like falling into a well. When you wake, hours later, the sun is high in the sky. The first thing you see is your mother, propped up slightly, her eyes open. They are weak, shadowed with exhaustion, but they are clear, and they are looking at you. Amara, she whispers, using the name only she ever used for you. Your secret name. Hearing it now, after everything, is enough to make you weep. Later that day, you step out of the cabin, blinking in the bright sunlight, your body aching but your heart feeling impossibly light. You are carrying a bucket to the well when you see him. Thomas is by the stables, speaking with the blacksmith. He looks up as you pass, and his eyes find yours across the dusty yard. There is no need for words. A whole conversation happens in that single shared glance. Your eyes say, "It worked. She is alive." His eyes say, "I am glad. I was so afraid." You give him the smallest, most subtle nod you can manage, a gesture so tiny that no one else would ever notice it. He returns it, a quick, sharp dip of his chin, before turning back to his conversation. It is enough. The secret is safe. The gamble paid off. The thread that connects you is no longer just a fragile wisp of poetry and whispered words in the dark. It has been forged anew in the crucible of fear and desperation, tempered into something strong and resilient. You are no longer just a foolish sparrow. You are a conspirator, an ally. And as you walk to the well, you feel the solid ground beneath your feet, and for the first time in a long time, you feel a little less alone in the world. Weeks pass, and the quiet rhythm of the plantation reasserts itself. The late summer heat gives way to the first gentle coolness of autumn. The leaves on the maple trees at the edge of the woods begin to blush with red and gold. Your mother is recovering her strength, slowly but surely. She sits outside the cabin in the afternoons, her hands busy with some small mending task, a quiet, beloved presence restored to you. The memory of the fever is a fading nightmare, but the events of that night have permanently altered the landscape of your life. Charity now treats you with a kind of gruff, protective regard. She saves you the best piece of salted fish from the weekly rations. She gives you a sharp, knowing look if she sees the overseer heading in your direction. Nothing is ever said about the medicine, the key, the secret vigil. It is a debt and an alliance that lives in the silence between you. The bond with Thomas remains a silent, invisible thing. You continue your careful dance of avoidance, but it is different now. It is no longer born of fear, but of a shared, mutual wisdom. The stolen glances across the yard are no longer filled with longing and frustration, but with the quiet, profound understanding of a shared, life-altering secret. It is enough to see him, to know he is there, to know what you did together. One evening, as twilight settles its soft purple cloak over the land, you find yourself walking back towards the place where this all began, the small hidden clearing in the woods. The air is cool and smells of damp leaves and rich earth. The world feels peaceful, holding its breath before the night. You sit on the same fallen log, its bark worn smooth like a familiar hand. From the secret pocket in your skirt, you take out the book. It is worn now, the leather softened by the constant secret pressure of your body. You open it, the pages falling open to a poem you have read so many times the words are etched into your soul. It is not about death or God this time. It is a poem about the union of two souls, a love so complete it makes one person out of two. You read the words, and they no longer feel like they belong to another world. They are not a fantasy. They are a strange, distorted reflection of the thing you and Thomas have built. It is not the simple, pure love of the poem. It is a tangled vine, grown in darkness and watered with fear. It is a shared conspiracy, a desperate gamble. It is complicated and dangerous and impossible. But it is real, and it is yours. You look up from the book into the deepening twilight. You think about the word love. It is a word from his world, from his books. You wonder if it is the right word for this unbreakable, unspoken thing. You do not have an answer. Perhaps there is no single word for it in any language. And now, as the last light fades from the sky, the story begins to soften, its edges blurring into the quiet of the coming night. Let the pages of the book fall closed, the ink and leather resting in the peaceful dark. The air grows cooler, the breeze a gentle whisper through the pines, carrying the faint, sweet scent of wood smoke and distant rain. The sounds of the night rise around you, a familiar, soothing chorus. The steady, pulsing sermon of the crickets, the deep, resonant call of a bullfrog in the creek, the rustle of some small creature in the dry leaves nearby. These are the sounds of a world that continues, a world that endures. Remember the feeling of that first bead of sweat on your mother's forehead, a tiny, perfect promise of dawn after a long and terrifying night. Remember the silent, steady presence of Charity, a fortress of strength in the flickering lamplight. Remember the quick, secret nod from a boy across a sunlit yard, a confirmation that courage can live in the most unexpected of hearts. These moments are yours to keep, small, glowing embers in the vast darkness. The fear was real, but so was the bravery. The cruelty was real, but so was the impossible kindness. Let the heavy weight of the day fall away from your shoulders. Let the tangled thoughts of the mind begin to smooth and settle. Like ripples on a still pond, there is nothing left to do now. The work is done. The fever has passed. The secret is safe. There is only the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the night, a lullaby for a weary world. You are safe here, in this quiet space, held by the darkness and the ancient, silent light of the stars. The drinking gourd is there, a faithful guide, watching over you as you drift. Let the story fade, and allow yourself to float on the deep, peaceful current of sleep. Now, rest. Just rest.